Right, as I've discussed, the left is working overtime to target Speaker of the House Mike Johnson for his Christian faith. And I've been very clear. He's been on this program many times. I've known Mike for a long, long time. Here's their main problem, is that Mike actually believes what he says when he speaks of his Christian biblical faith. His what he described as a biblical worldview. I'm going to play this this clip again that we played yesterday. This was Jen Psaki on her show. She used to be the it's called Inside with Jen Psaki on MSNBC. She used to be the press secretary, she played a clip. It's hold on just a second. It's clip number 12. We're going to play this. Go ahead and play clip number 12.
He gave us all a little clue as to how he would govern in an interview this week.
I am a Bible-believing Christian. Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview.
You heard that right. The Bible doesn't just inform his worldview, it is his worldview.
Jen, that's called a biblical worldview, juxtaposed to your humanist worldview, all right? And there are a lot of Christians out there that operate from that same worldview. The left is doing whatever they can to try to look for scandalous details about Mike Johnson's life. And one they've latched onto is quite comical, the fact that he got a covenant marriage 25 years ago. And he worked with me to help promote it, a law that I passed in Louisiana. Well, I want to bring in someone who's actually known the speaker even longer than I have. He knew his father, who Mike made reference to on the day that he was sworn in as speaker in his speech to the House. He made reference to his father, who was a fireman in Shreveport, Louisiana, and was injured on the job and died just a few days before Mike. He had retired, a health retirement because of his injuries, but he died just a few days before Mike was sworn into Congress from cancer. Well, join me now to discuss this and this attack that is going on toward Christian faith is Kelvin Cochran. He, among the many titles he's had, he served as firefighter. He was later the chief of the fire department in Shreveport, Louisiana, alongside now Speaker's Mike Johnson's father. He previously served as the administrator of the United States Fire Administration and then the fire chief of Atlanta. Chief, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to see you.
Tony, it's great to see you, and it's good to be back on Washington Watch.
Now, you actually worked with Mike's dad. In fact, he trained you, did he not?
That's exactly right. Mike's dad, Pat Johnson, was on the Shreveport fire department, what we would refer to as a firefighter's firefighter. He was a role model to all firefighters, and he was promoted to captain training officer about a year before I was hired in 1981. And he quickly became all of the recruits' favorite training officer. And for me personally, he became a role model because he made such an impression upon me with the way he wore his uniform, his professional demeanor, and just the way that he treated people on the job. And he gave me the aspiration of wanting to be a captain training officer one day. And as you stated, Tony, his untimely retirement due to injuries sustained at a cold storage plant explosion, where he was one of the members of the hazardous materials response team, and training officer Percy Johnson was killed, and Pat Johnson was badly burned and ultimately retired. His retirement, Tony, created a vacancy, and I was his successor and being promoted to fill the vacancy that he created when he retired.
When you, being that close to Mike's father, I mean, you saw him, and in that kind of, having been in law enforcement, I know there's similarities there as first responders, the pressure, you really see people for what they are. What can you tell us in terms of similarities that you see in Mike with his father, Pat?
Man, there are many similarities. Pat Johnson was unashamedly Christian. he integrated his faith with his calling as a firefighter, and he integrated his faith with his purpose as a father and as a husband. And he was one of those Christians who connected his role as a firefighter to the biblical principle of being our brother's keeper and to the biblical principle of sacrificing or laying down one's life for another. Pat Johnson was a man of courage and a man of valor, and those same traits exist in his son, Mike Johnson.
So Chief, when you go through any type of academy, whether it be law enforcement, military, fire, you look up to those trainers. Did his faith play a role in shaping your integration of your faith with your public walk as a firefighter?
It absolutely did, because he was outwardly living out his faith. He was sharing how faith connected to the career in every aspect of the training of a firefighter. He made sure that we understood as rookie firefighters that there was a divine connection between being a firefighter and being a believer, and also being faithful in our family relationships. And he lived it out. Pat Johnson and his family, they lived right across the street from the training academy. Can you imagine that? And so I had a chance to see Pat's wife, Jeannie, and Mike and his siblings. They would come across the street to the training academy from time to time. And I had a chance to see Pat Johnson live out his love for his family and his kids right in front of all of us. And I remember Mike specifically. He was so proud of his dad, and his dad was so very proud of him. And Mike was just a consummate big brother. You could tell that he took serious his responsibility of being a big brother for his siblings.
Chief, obviously you paid close attention to Pat in his role of integrating his faith, because you did the same. In fact, for those that don't know your story, we connected when you were the chief in Atlanta, and you were very much like Mike Johnson is being today, being criticized publicly for simply living out your faith as a Bible-believing Christian.
Yes, sir. I tell you, I never would imagine, Tony, that writing a book for a Christian men Bible study would actually cost or end my childhood dream come true fairy tale career after 34 years of faithful service. But it absolutely did end my career. And I learned a lot of things about that. I just was completely shocked that in the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, the land of our constitutional First Amendment rights, that I could be terminated for writing a book for a Christian men Bible study. So I know firsthand what it's like to be targeted and attacked for speaking truth.
Of course, you went on in court and prevailed in that case and won. And I think your example of being willing to live out your faith Atlanta Fire Department, that's a big fire department. And by your example, I have no doubt that through the years of your 30 plus years in the fire industry, in the fire department, in various places, that there are others, just like you looked to Pat Johnson, that looked to you and saw, hey, this guy is living it out. He's the real deal. That's what really frightens the left. And that's why they want to crush people like you, like Mike Johnson, and others, is because, it's why they want to cancel us, is because we give a platform and we actually walk out our faith. We're not going to hide it. We're not going to keep it between our ears. We're going to share it, because it is our hope that's within us. And it's also what offers freedom and fulfillment to others.
It absolutely does, Tony. And, having the courage and grace to stand in this cultural moment is so essential for all believers when we are facing the fire. And I've come to learn that there are three essential components for any and all believers who, when that day comes, not if it comes, but when that day comes, it's so important for us to know, number one, that God has prepared us for that moment. realize that you would not be facing the fire and experiencing that moment if God had not determined that he had thoroughly equipped you for it. And so Mike Johnson has been thoroughly prepared and thoroughly equipped to deal with the persecution that he is facing. And so has all believers been prepared by the Most High God. The second thing is to face the reality that there are worldly consequences for standing on biblical truth and standing for Christ. There are worldly consequences for it. So being attacked for speaking the truth should be anticipated and expected for the believer, knowing that, number one, again, God has prepared us for it. And the truth always sounds like hate to those who hate the truth. And so we should expect for them to respond in a very, in many cases, harsh and sometimes even violent way. But because of their response, we should not respond that way. We should respond with love and with compassion, but also with confidence. We should not be surprised. We should not be discouraged, but we should also not waver. One of my favorite scriptures in 1 Peter 4:12 says, "Think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you as though some strange thing happened to you." And then the third thing, not only is there worldly consequences for standing on biblical truth and standing for Christ, the third thing is there are kingdom consequences for standing on biblical truth and standing for Christ. And the kingdom consequences are always greater than the worldly consequences. Because God has predestined Mike Johnson to be the speaker, he cannot fail. He will be successful because God predestined him to be there. But if by chance he experienced some kind of a loss, Jesus said, "Whatever you lose standing for me, I will restore it 100-fold in this life with persecution, but afterwards you will experience eternal life." I'm living proof that Jesus Christ was not using hyperbole, Tony. I'm living the 100-fold life after having been persecuted for writing a book for a Christian men Bible study. So all believers should be encouraged by those three lessons.
You're absolutely right. That is so spot on, and it reminds me of 1 Peter, when Peter was writing to the Christians that had been dispersed because of persecution. In fact, I actually sent this verse to Mike this morning. I was talking to him last night, and he's encouraged because of the prayers that people are praying for him. But Peter wrote this. He said, "But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you are blessed, and do not be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. But sanctify the Lord your God in your heart, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you." And that's religious freedom. We know it's coming, but we embrace it with joy because it is a part of the purpose, and it's all about bringing glory and honor to the Lord Jesus Christ. Chief, always great to see you. Thank you so much for taking time. Very quickly, we're up against the break, but what is the main thing people could be doing right now to be supportive of Mike Johnson?
They should certainly be praying for Mike Johnson, that God will continue to use him the way he has been used since the time he has been a public servant, and that he'll have the courage and the boldness necessary to lead as Speaker of the House, and to do so with honor and valor, just like his dad, Pat Johnson, served as a Shreveport firefighter.
Chief Kelvin Cochran, thank you, sir. Always great to see you. So appreciate you.